Hey, what's up? What's up? This is Jeff from BKJmacTV, and this is the BKJmac podcast experience. And I'm bringing to you some major news that's been dominating news television. And let me tell you, April 24th, 2023 will never be the same again. On that day, Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson were basically dismissed from their respective news outlets. Basically, Don Lemon was fired from CNN and Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News. To play face, it alleges they separated in mutual ways. They went their mutual ways. However, Don Lemon found out through his agent that he got fired, and it made the news. And Don Lemon basically expressed that he was shocked by this event. He didn't see it coming. He had taken time off. He had apologized. He had basically followed the script. He had made amends for his transgressions in the past. But apparently, the network brass at CNN didn't find it enough, and they basically pulled the rug under him after 17 years of service. Same thing with Tucker Carlson, especially after that settlement with Dominion over the voting machines. Mr. Carlson was making outlandish comments from the pulpit on Fox News, saying how Dominion voting machines were rid with fraud. They weren't to be trusted. And privately, he was saying, this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. He couldn't stand Trump. He wished the network would just ignore him and his comments about Dominion's voting machines. Basically, it just wasn't good at all. And they found out about his private emails, his private text messages, and eventually it went from private to public. And eventually Fox News decided, hey, these emails and these text messages basically were going to destroy us, so we had to settle with Dominion really fast. And that's what ended up happening. And after the settlement, for basically 50% of the amount, which was $1.8 billion that the Dominion's voting machine company was asking for, but they got over, I believe it was $786 million. Still a lot of money. Unbelievable. Anyway, the article titled Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson Departures Royal Cable News Universe. Article was by Rodney Ho from the Atlantic Journal-Constitution. Okay, here we go. He writes, Mr. Ho writes, the sudden departures of Don Lemon at CNN and Tucker Carlson at Fox News roils an already tumultuous cable news universe. Fox News released a statement Monday without citing why Carlson was leaving and noted a rotating set of hosts will cover the 8 p.m. slot. We thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor, the statement said. This is Fox News' major move since the media company settled a blockbuster defamation case last week with Dominion Voting Systems to the tune of $787.5 million. Let me say that again, $787.5 million. That is a lot of money. And let me be frank with you. Fox News really did everything in their power to slander and to defame Dominion voting system services. I mean, their machines were used during the 2020 presidential elections, and We all know Joe Biden won the presidential election, but Donald Trump, who was basically a sore loser, didn't want to accept defeat, and he basically used his allies at Fox News to promote the propaganda that Dominion voting machines were not good, that they were faulty, and the representatives working at Dominion were engaging in fraud to basically keep Donald Trump from winning a second term as president of the United States, which was basically false, and which was false in all of its nature. Anyway, there's no doubt someone was going down, said Roland Martin, a former CNN political contributor who now runs his own Black Star network. You don't pay out $787.5 million and keep the status quo. Carlson has not yet released any reaction to this action. Lemon, who had been a co-host on CNN's morning show until Monday, released a statement about his departure less than an hour later. I was informed this morning by my agent that I've been terminated by CNN, he wrote. I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone at management would have had the decency to tell me directly. He added, at no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network. It is clear that there are some larger issues at play. With that said, I want to thank my colleagues and the many teams I have worked with for an incredible run. Lemon ignited controversy earlier this year when he implied that Nikki Haley, a former Republican U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and former South Carolina governor, was no longer in her prime at age 51, whatever that means. To be honest, when he said that, that was the most stupid, most idiotic comment that he has ever made in his life. At 51 years old, she's 51 and she's not in her prime. You forget Joe Biden is 80 years old and Donald Trump is 76 years old. So are they in their prime? Like, I don't understand that. Like, she's 51. She's extremely younger than the last presidents we've had over the span of 8 years. So for him to say that she's not in her prime, that was totally a sexist comment, and he needs to check himself. Wherever he lands, he got to check himself. He cannot be saying comments like that over the air, and he cannot be offending people, especially a former governor of South Carolina. I'm going to tell you something about Nikki Haley. When a congressman was killed while at his church with parishioners, she took it upon herself to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol in South Carolina. She got a lot of pushback for it, but she did the right thing. She stood for justice and equality for all when she took down that Confederate flag down from the state capitol. So for Lemon to say that was very wrong, and it was indignifying at best. Anyway, as we go back into the article, women, he told his two female co-anchors, were really in their prime, in her 20s, 30s, and maybe her 40s. When her co-host, Poppy Hilo, who is 40, objected, he said, "Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying what the facts are." He was given sensitivity training and returned to air. He was carrying a lot of public baggage, said Frank Sesno, former CNN White House correspondent and bureau chief and currently director of strategic initiatives at George Washington University. Martin said a recent Variety magazine investigation which revealed stories of Lemon being misogynistic in the late 2000s while working at CNN in Atlanta was a sign that people inside CNN were actively working against him. Tony Harris, a former CNN anchor now doing work at the History Channel, said He thought Lemon's future at CNN was doomed when he lost his primetime spot last fall and was placed on mornings, a time slot CNN has struggled with for decades. They undermine him, Harris said. I get that Don can be a polarizing figure, but there was a direction CNN endorsed for a good period of time. In fact, former CNN's chief, Jeff Zucker, was a huge Lemon cheerleader and specifically moved him from Atlanta to New York in 2000 to be a more prominent figure on the network. So Jeff Zucker was a big fan of him. They were willing to let go of his transgressions because, let's be honest, he brought in the numbers, he brought in the money, he brought in the sponsors. Everybody who likes CNN were tuning in to see Don Lemon. In a tweet, CNN called Lemon's account inaccurate. The network said he was given an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. The New York Times, citing an unnamed source inside CNN, said CNN discovered some guests didn't want to appear with Lemon, and his popularity had fallen with CNN viewers since the Haley Babalgo. As for Carlson, he was a player in the Dominion case. His private correspondence not matching up with what he was saying on air. Emails and texts collected from Fox executives and anchors, including Carlson, showed that they did not believe many of the election fraud allegations that were being presented on the network, as well as conspiracies about Dominion's voting machines that proved to be false. He clearly didn't anticipate what was going to happen on Friday when he signed off on what would be his final show. He simply said, "We'll be back Monday, see you then." Carlson, 53, has worked at all three major cable news networks. He was a commentator with CNN from 2000 to 2005. He was part of MSNBC from 2005 to 2008. He hosted Tucker Carlson Tonight on Fox News from 2016 until this past Friday. "This is an earthquake at Fox News," says no, who was going to be an expert witness for Dominion before the case was settled. But what it means and what damage it really creates, we don't know yet. So basically, they have no idea this impact has significant ramifications for news networks everywhere, with the Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson basically out. It's wild. It's really wild. Fox News has survived periods high-profile primetime departures, including those by Bill O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly. Carlson actually took over O'Reilly's time slot in 2017 after O'Reilly was accused of sexual harassment by multiple former Fox employees, allegations he denied at the time. He soon became Fox's highest-rated host. But Fox is facing shareholder lawsuits and another lawsuit from a Dominion voting rival, Smartmatic, which is seeking $2.7 billion in damages. CNN, in the meantime, over the past year has been adjusting to new management, weaker ratings, and a primetime lineup in flux. The network fired Chris Cuomo a year ago for ethical issues relating to his interaction with his brother and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and new CNN boss Chris Luch last fall moved Lemon 2 mornings before letting him go Monday. MSNBC now only has its bigger star, Rachel Maddow, one evening a week. There's a larger existential threat to cable news with so much cord-cutting and polarization and a very demanding transit audience, says no said. Fox News primetime ratings during the first quarter was down 18% year over year. MSNBC's ratings fell 8%, but CNN's dropped a whopping 34% in primetime, and it's 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. slots remained open. CNN's morning show lasted 6 months, and Lemon's co-hosts Hilo and Caitlin Collins will remain. CNN said ratings have been modest and lag far behind those at Fox and MSNBC. So basically, let's be honest, the ratings are horrible. They're basically drowning in the water right now with no hope of coming back up. And with the firing of Lemon, basically it's gonna be worse. It's down 34%. I expect it to be doubled down by 68%. Let's see what happens. For Warner Brothers Discovery, CNN remains a very profitable division, though profits will certainly be lower this year than last. Fox For Fox Corp CEO Rupert Murdoch, Fox News has also been a consistent financial cash machine, and internally management has fretted about changing behavior and changing direction that could jeopardize its bottom line, says Nouri noted. He recalls working with Carlson 2 decades ago. He was always a very smart, talented person with a distinctive voice, says Nouri. Unfortunately, that voice has been directed in some very ugly, intolerant, and uninformed ways in recent years. So let's be honest. This was written by Mr. Rodney Hope from the Atlanta Constitution, and I will tell you this. This was a bombshell of a report. Tucker Carlson being fired at Fox News and Don Lemon being fired at CNN. Apparently, just all these issues. One was caught because his private text messages did not support what Donald Trump was spitting. The other one was Mr. Lemon. His attitude, condescending nature, wasn't accepted by his co-workers, and the network decided to save face, and cut him off the roster. So you tell me what you think about that. Did the news outlets make the right decision? Did they make the right call by dismissing these two famous, well-known anchors and TV personalities at these news stations? You tell me. I'm willing to listen. Definitely. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the BKJmac's podcast experience. Peace, love, always one.